We came so far from dreams. The path was hard for me. They thought we fall, you see. Well, look at us now, look at us now. We make it hot when we on the scene. Yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team. Yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around. You know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we. Tell me who better than we. We soaring to places you never could reach. When we walk in that spot, don't hear none of you speak. Shh, do you want peace or the peace? A king about to put you to sleep. Listen, my team is elite. You not even qualified to compete. He starving, he barely can eat. I guess that's why he always itching for beef. So I put him on ice and I told him to chill. Close your mouth if you can't pay for the meal. Making statements that you know you don't mean. Nice guy trying to act like he mean. Keep it a buck, keep it a bean. Attitudes will put you dudes in the beam. Isekai, he don't live in reality. Shake back, all become a fatality. Yeah, how you gon' hate when you mirror us? He think he a star, he ain't serious. X him out, we not on the same frequency. If you broke, you ain't hearing this. Work the screw, anime, that's how I feel, period. We winning, that's making them furious. We make it high when we on the scene, yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team, yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around, you know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we.
Yo, what it do, guys? It is your boy, Leon Mooky here, and I'm back with you with another new part of What If Will Was a Dragon Witch. This is part 1, and in the last part, I went over on how that of dragon witches are even in that of the world of Wistoria, actually, and how Will even became one, defending Alferia, while also unlocking that of his unique form of magic known as Weiss. However, defeating that of the monster, which was a dragon, the blood basically entered that of Will's system, and turns out he already had the potential of being a witch due to that of the witch crest on his chest that was originally thought was a birthmark. But over time, Elfie never really bothered telling him that he now became a dragon witch, or rather, they didn't know that he became a dragon witch, even though he was already showing signs by devouring meat and also craving dragons. And where Elfie was scouted to be that of the next Magia Vander for the ice seat of magic, Will convinced her to go on ahead without him, that he'll catch up with her, that he'll be there right by her side once he finally earns his spot into that of the college courses, where they would see the sunset together. However, with that, she ends up giving him his iconic goggles. However, at the process, Will was basically looked down upon and treated like crap. Not to mention, however, over the time, certain teachers have taken a liking to him and even found out that he was actually a dragon witch, but the very first male dragon witch in history. With now learning of this, he's now on the proper path to reach Magia Vander's status, just like Elfie. So, with all that said, let's get into this, shall we, guys? It's been 7 years since that of Will has entered that of Redgarden Academy, and currently he's now in his 7th year, which is the last year for him. You would think, being the very first male dragon witch would already slingshot you to that of Magia Vander status. Unfortunately, that's far from the case, mainly because of a few things stepping in his path and way. Currently in that of magical theory classes, run by one of the strictest and one of the most terrifying and also most hated teacher in all of Redgarden Academy, Edward Serfants. Basically a tall, lanky, messy, black-haired young man with that of, well, wearing nothing but all black. Personally, think of Aizawa with the personality of Snape from Harry Potter, as going over the lesson, explaining that of a certain basic spell that anyone, even during that of their first year, can learn. However, he soon basically has his attention on a certain student, saying, Will Surfort, as as currently Will, now 17 years old, is writing everything down. However, he's not entirely paying attention before hearing his name multiple times saying, yes, sir. Could you explain that again? Well, a few people in the class couldn't help but basically snicker, except that of a few who basically look at Will and that of worry. With one female student basically can't help say, here he goes again. With another female student actually saying, yes, I'm aware. Let's hope that it doesn't go too far this time. With then Edward saying, would you like to demonstrate that of the spell? With then Will hearing that saying, sure, sir. Here we go again. As walking down to that of the explanation table, seeing that of the ingredients needed for that of the spell to work. With then Will having a wand in his hands, looking quite nervous, with Edward saying, go on now. You know the incantation, sir, for it. Saying, right. O flame, spring forth. With nothing happening. However, even though nothing happened, you could still feel that of the abundance of mana basically flowing through him, but nothing basically changed though. However, we all know the reason why that nothing changed. Before then, everybody began to laugh at that of Will, except a select few, being that of 3 girls. One girl with that of silver hair, with a quite serious and always look quite pissed off look on her face as she's narrowing her eyes at everybody, especially at that of Professor Edwards. However, wearing that of the school uniform, however, it basically looks like it's kind of painted on due to her assets. With the other girl being a white-haired girl with that of the, redgarden Academy uniform as well. However, she has that of a large navy blue hat on top of her, with a look of pity for that of Will. As to the other being a girl with that of orange hair that goes down to that of her neck, looking quite worried as she's saying, oh, Will. But then couldn't help but get annoyed before raising his hand, as materializing that of a spell circle. As soon he unleashes that of the fire. With then everybody basically just stay quiet. Before then he's saying, I know it's not the spell that you wanted, Professor, but I'm pretty sure this is enough, right? But then Edwards, looking somewhat shocked, before annoyed, saying, yes, it's not exactly what I wanted, but you, demonstrated the flame. Needed the flame for that of the spell. As Edwards reluctantly said all those words, with that of the ponytailed silver-haired girl couldn't help but snicker, saying, dumbass. With the girl on that of the side saying, Karikara. Then saying, Miss Karikara, you have anything to say? Saying, nope, not needed. Will was able to make the spell, so I'm pretty sure he's done for his live demonstration, right? So can we get on class, or are we done with the humiliation ritual today? With then hearing that of the girl's basically snappy tone, leaving that of Edwards annoyed, saying, fine, Sir Fort, go back to your seat now. Saying, yes, sir. As he walks away, however, whispers across the class begin to basically rise, saying, there it goes again. Once again, the witch's boy toy being protected once more. With more voice saying, seriously, what do they see in that talentless hack? With hearing more and more hurtful words. But then, soon, multiple dark spell circles materialize over that of the desk. Magic is everything. I'll let you all know this now. Doesn't matter if you are a mage, a witch, or even a dragon witch. If you have the skills, show them. If you have the drive, prove it. If you have the talent, flaunt it. Because in this world, magic is everything. The greatest heroes, warriors, and even legends all wield magic. And those who can't wield it properly shouldn't have the right to be in this school. With that, Will couldn't help but clench his fist. However, it was something inside of him, something basically growling within him that felt way more offended, though, by the words of the most hated professor. As classes came to an end, with currently now, Will is outside of that of the classroom with everybody else already long gone, except a select few people. Two girls that were basically talking in that of class are standing right by his side, with the girl with the witch's hat saying, "Are you okay, Will?" I know he can be saying, "No need to worry, Mavessa. I'm okay. Remember, I'm used to this stuff." Within, Karikara basically crossing her arms under that of her, ample chest saying, "And what is his problem? Seriously, I know he's not your biggest fan, but still, to try and always humiliate you like this really annoys me. I can't stand humans like him." So basically pushed on their high horse after all. Within, Marvessa basically saying, "Karikara, you can't speak to a professor like that," saying, "And why the hell not? It's not like anybody actually respects him." With Will looking at Karikara always being honest, can't help but smile before one voice saying, "Man, you really are a glutton for punishment, aren't you?" Before looking over as all three of them look to the right, seeing that of a red-haired young man wearing that of an all-black school uniform, with a snobbish and smug face, with Will already aware on who this person is all too well, saying, "Hi, Scion," as the guy walking up with that of his two lackeys behind him. However, Mavessa, alongside that of Karikara, basically stand in between that of Scion and Will, with Scion looking somewhat annoyed but not too basically perturbed, with Mavessa asking, "How can I help you, Ulster? Do you have anything relevant to speak on?" With Scion going, "In matter of fact, Mavessa, I actually do, and it's about that of the very laggard behind you." Within, hearing that, Karikar saying, "Laggard? What did we say about you calling Will that, Scion?" Within, Scion saying, honestly, we all know that he's not even that of a good student. Just because he has a huge supply of mana within him doesn't mean anything if he doesn't know how to properly use it. Honestly, the fact that he has to basically that he has to wave around his hand just to basically channel a spell circle without properly using a wand and can't even do incantations properly proves on how basically useless he is. The very definition of a laggard, wasted potential, or literally no potential whatsoever. With Will looking down, within, Karikar hearing that saying, "You know what, do you really want to die that badly, noble boy? Because I can really oblige you." Within, Scion hearing this saying, "I like to see you try, Dragon Witch." As Will and Manessa were about to basically step in, that's when somebody spoke up saying, "That's enough, Scion, and you too, Karikara." With hearing that voice, with Will realizing, "Colette." With then Scion saying, "Colette, hey, what is our esteemed class rep has to say about that of this?" Within getting up into that of Scion's face saying, "I know what you're trying to do, Scion. I will not allow you to basically belittle Will and also talk down about that of my friends, Karikara and Manessa as well. Will is one of the most hardworking students. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean anything. He's also far kinder and respectful than any other student here. And that is a fact." With Will quite shocked saying, "Colette." Within, Karikara couldn't help but smirk saying, couldn't say it better myself, Colette. With Manessa basically smiling at the kind words that Colette speaks on Will's behalf. With then Scion scoffing, saying, sure, say what you want, doesn't really matter. After all, everybody knows Professor Edwards is right. A talentless loser like him has no right to even be here. With that of Scion and his lackeys walking off, which causing that of Colette alongside Karikara, and even that of Will's familiar, Kiki, a black carbuncle with that of a purple jewel on her forehead, also sticking her tongue out and also bringing her eye down too at the same time. Within, soon, Will saying, thanks for your support, girls. I really appreciate it. Within, Karikara couldn't help but basically huff, saying, you should start defending yourself even more, Will. Or better yet, stop hiding, actually. Within, Will saying, hiding, you say? It's not like I'm trying to, it's just... Within, Marissa saying, we all know the real reason why you can't show yourself. Within, Will couldn't help but basically smile and also look down. Within, as he's saying, it took a while for dragon witches to, well, coexist with people in this world. Given the fact that, well, dwarves basically were having to fight for their rights and independence. Not the fact elves basically had all right to basically go to the top of the tower where every single elf basically lives to this day. Don't forget about that of the vampires too, who are just as powerful as the elves, but are a lot more persecuted, but far from the same level as the dwarves though. And then there's the dragon witches, with then Karikara saying, yeah, our very existence, if we don't basically devour or eat as much meat, or we eat too much meat, we basically become that of dragons. We lose ourselves, have no consciousness, and the dragon within us basically takes full control. With Vanessa saying, the time known as the Great Witch Hunts, where mages, dwarves, and even elves basically hunted us witches before finally coexisting by helping witches from allowing the dragon inside them to take control and eat them. But only a select few know the truth behind the witches and why they transform into dragons. The only people that are aware of this are dragon witches themselves, the headmasters of each magic academy, alongside that of the Magiavanders and their leader, the Magiavander King, Aaron, and supposedly the one who helped them basically not allow the curse to fully consume them until a certain time of their life has reached their end. That being the Magic Queen, Mercedes. It's because of this, dragon witches are now able to live coexistently with others, but are still persecuted due to the fear of them losing control of the dragon within them if they don't properly eat after all. So of course, Redgarden Academy and many other, cities across that of the world basically do have that of medications and also certain foods and diets for that of witches, so they don't lose control. But when they find out that a male witch exists, what are the chances that there are more males with that of witch blood within them, and yet none of them even know it's the truth? Will would basically be the first of people to fear if the secret got out too soon without the proper, contingency plans to help things through. That's why, when being a Magiavander, he can basically announce himself as the very first male witch to make things easier for the public and everyone else as well. But easier said than done when he doesn't even have enough credits to even graduate that of the college level exam or even graduate in general. But with all of this behind him, he can't stop now. He has to keep moving forward. He has to see Elfie. Within, Karikar saying, still, you're so much stronger than that Scion brat. I just wish you would actually stand up for yourself a lot more, Will. Within, Will saying, I get it, but honestly, I just don't care, to be honest. Within, Car saying, you don't care? With Will a little freaked out saying, no, I don't. To be honest, it's waste of time just basically worrying about stuff like that and worrying what Scion or anyone else care about. As long as I know that some people actually do see me for me instead of what I can't do, that's all that matters, right? As he gives off that of a kind, caring smile, causing that of Kari to blush a bit, before then saying, well, whatever. Well, I need to get ready for tonight. I have to go down to the dungeon and take care of a few monsters for my praxis classes, which I am so behind on right now. Within, Marissa basically walking right next to Kari saying, I told you not to play it off until last year, and now look at you right behind saying, oh, shut up. You know exactly why I was too busy to handle those classes last year. With that, as the two witches basically walk off, leaving only Will and Colette alone. Within, Colette saying, they really do always have your back, don't they? With Will saying, yeah, I'm grateful for them, to be honest. Just as I'm grateful to have you as a friend too, Colette. You're always nice to me, and I appreciate everything you do. With Colette begins to basically blush, saying, hey, don't be saying stuff like that out of the blue. You girls might get the wrong idea, you know? Within, Will a little bit confused, saying, wrong idea? What do you mean? Within, she can't help but get annoyed, saying, he's so dense. With that of Colette and Will continue walking, before then, hearing a certain voice saying, Will Surfort? I think I have some words with you. Within, remembering hearing those familiar words and voice, as looking over, seeing that of Professor Wartner, as he actually has that of a smile on his face. However, you could feel that of an aura of tenseness and pressure coming off of him. Within, Colette seeing this saying, better take care of that, Will. I'll see you when you're done. Within, Will saying, wait, Colette! But however, with Kiki basically sighing, knowing where this is going. Currently in Professor Wertner's office, Within saying, you utter idiot! Within, Will basically almost looking like he's being knocked back by that of pure winds themselves. However, Wertner hasn't even used a single wind spell at all. Within, soon Will saying, Professor Wertner, if this is about me entering the dungeon, I will let you know Professor Carlotta basically gave me permission to. Oh, I'm aware. She did give you permission to basically go to the fourth floor and stay on the fourth floor to take care of monsters. However, you decided to basically branch down to not only the fifth floor, but the sixth floor is too. Now that was it. Now that without permission, you are lucky that that Kiki basically broadcast everything that you do down to the dungeon. You are the very first male witch recorded in history right now, Will. Do you know how important your existence is to dragon witches all across the world right now? Within, Will, a little bit nervous, saying, I am aware. With Will looking down, with Sue Wartner saying, I figured the reason you went down to that of the lower floors and even further was to get that of more monster skins. To get more monsters, given that you can't absorb that of monster. You can't absorb monster materials unless you use that of your dragon powers. You figured you would need, and since you had to bring them back up yourself, instead of that of the mana themselves scanning them. Within, Will saying, yeah, I get it. Plus, given the materials needed for that of certain dragon weapons, for certain witches' weapons, made from that of monsters down into the dungeon as well. Within saying, so, besides getting extra points by taking out certain monsters, like that evil guard you took down, Within saying, what do you plan on using some of the parts for outside of just getting credits? Within saying, well, I plan on using it to improve one of my weapons, actually. Plus, the core inside of it was also quite something else too. I feel like I can use it to absorb into that of my dragon power, and especially into that of my dragon core. Even though my specialty is in that of light magic, I can learn also that of dark magic and even have a nullification towards it. With then saying, I figured as much. With then saying, so, even so, for the credits of defeating an evil sentry this last night, I give you at least that of 5 points. Within, Will hearing that saying, all right, jumping up into the air like that of a child, with even Kiki doing the same thing with Will. Within, tallying up to that of Will's current credits, with Kiki and Will doing their signature fist bump head shake. With then saying, so, how is that enough? Saying, you're lucky. It is enough for you to graduate to that of graduate this year. However, it's still not enough for you to make it to the college level course next year. Within, Will saying, so, but I thought for sure that, Will, to graduate fully and go to the college level, you need to basically have that of a consistent number of points and credits within all 3 courses. That being praxis, going down to the dungeon, writing classes, understanding and learning about magical theory, and spell crafting, developing and showing off your skills in that of certain tasks that you are given in class. With then Will saying, well, that's the thing. Even though I take a lot of notes, I'm not that good at understanding them. And given praxis is where I need to basically show off quite a bit of my skills. And given my witch nature, I can't use the full aspect of magic abilities that the school tries to push. With then saying, and I told you this, alongside that of Headmistress Cauldron and even Professor Colata, that they need to basically prove that you are a witch. Show them your dragonification powers. With Will hearing that, looking down saying, I know, and I get it, but if I do that, then within, Varnir couldn't help but sigh saying, I know you're worried, Will, and scared. And it's that very reason why Charlotta and also Headmistress understands your reasoning and respects your choices to keep it a secret. And I understand as well too. But to understand, if you go down this path, it's going to be hard, strenuous, and relying too much and only on that of praxis course credits is not going to get you any further. You only got as far as you did because of Headmistress Cauldron and that of Professor Carlotta. You only got enough credits to graduate now. And honestly, that is basically a luck. That is pure and utter luck alone. But to gain enough credits to make it to that of the college level, it's truly absurd and impossible. With Will hearing this, can't help but feel like a hammer of despair basically just, hit him over upside the head with it. With Kiki feeling her familiar master basically got a cold hit of reality. For then, Varnir sighing, saying, with all that said, it's not impossible to still make it up by now. Within, Will looking up, saying, structure yourself, boy. Change how you do things. Instead of just focusing on practice classes, focusing more on that of writing classes, magical theory. Instead of just taking notes, make sure that you focus and listen. Study while you can. As for that of spellcrafting classes, you might not be able to show off your true capabilities as a dragon witch, but you can at least show off some of the basic abilities of magic you can use, even without a wand. You're a bright boy, Will. Think things through smartly. Within hearing that, Will saying, understood, Professor. I'll take your words to heart and give it my all. With Varnir saying, good. That's what I love to hear. However, I am aware that you failed your last spell working exam a few days ago, which makes you at least 4 credits behind that of to date what you would need for this week. With then saying, what? But I thought, even though you did bring in the enough credits that you would need for that of graduation, to continue your schooling though, you need extra credits, which leaves you that of 4, what you need is 4 credits. With Will freaking out saying, then there's only one thing I need to do is check my notes. With then basically opening his book frantically saying, come on, come on, come on. I know that there's a 4 credit monster in here. As while looking frantically and muttering to himself in a panic, Wartner couldn't help but basically smile before then huffing saying, just thinking out loud here, I was told to take care of a 4-point Baskerville that basically that's roaming that of the, 6th floor by tonight, actually. However, due to me having too much paperwork to handle it, so within, Will basically rushes towards Wartner saying, thank you, Professor! Thank you, thank you, thank you! Within, Wartner, a little caught off guard, smiling, but starting to get annoyed, saying, all right, that's enough. Why don't you let go already? However, little did they know, parts of their conversation was already heard on, as somebody outside of that of Professor Wartner's door, and that being Scion, as he can't help but have that of a smirk saying, I have a perfect way to get rid of that damn laggard now, while walking away in the halls. Currently, later on tonight, Will, exploring out of the dungeon, and was given full permission by that of Professor Charlotta to basically go down to the 6th floor. However, currently, on that of his person, below him is that of a large, massive sword. It looks like a mix of a single edge and double edge blade, actually. As it looks like the guard also is part of the blade too, with a black hilt. And on his back is that of a regular, broadsword, while switching out that of his uniform for that of his dungeon traveling materials with that of black pants, a white combat shirt, with that of his goggles given to him by Elfiria on that of his around his neck. With Will thinking, all right, a level 4 Baskerville. Thankfully enough, I was able to take care of it before. Honestly, I'm more annoyed at the fact that I didn't bother showing it to that of Professor Wartner. Thankfully, Professor Charlotta was allowing me to use it though. Plus, I'm aware of what it's capable of too. Within Kiki, having that of a look of annoyance as she remembers the last time that they faced against that of a Baskerville, as she was nearly burned to a crisp. Within, Kiki giving that look towards Will, as Will trying to placate her, saying, come on, Kiki, I'm sorry. I told you, I now know what I need to prepare for. And besides, within, going to the ground, he's saying, it looks like I'm not the only one on this floor. But in my estimates, within begins to use that of his dragon senses, saying, it's another dragon witch on this floor. And they, within, realizing they sense familiar. Within as he begins to think clearly and try to focus, saying, Kari Kara's on this floor too. I'm guessing this was the floor that she needed to do for that of extra credit. Hopefully we'll be able to handle things together, or we don't get in each other's way. However, while still focusing, wait a minute. It seems I'm sensing 3 other magic signatures here. One with a huge amount of mana in the front, while the other 2 barely has any to begin with. It feels familiar, but I'm not entirely sure. Whatever. It looks like Professor Charlotta is allowing a lot of people to come down to the dungeon tonight. At any rate, let's take care of this last monster and head back up, with Kiki basically meowing, and that of acceptance. However, as they begin to take, as before heading to take on that of the Baskerville, they take on that of a little break. However, as soon as they begin their break, that's when they begin to hear that of struggling and also screaming as well. With Will hearing this with his new senses, he can't help but run towards them. However, instead of just running, he soon pulls out that of his sword on his back, but the one on his waist actually, having the massive blade in his hands. However, instead of using it, he was about to throw it, but instead to hold off on it for a bit as he continues running. Before then, noticing in the distance that of a dragon, but not just any dragon. It looks like that of a regent dragon, a green dragon with that of with that of monolines coming through that of its scales and body, as it's on that of its hind legs. However, it's flying without even breaking a sweat, while sending that of multiple barrage of magical attacks from fire, wind, and lightning at that of a certain red-haired dumbass Scion. As Scion just continues firing fire spell after fire spell at that of the dragon, with Will saying, so that person was Scion. Seeing around him being that of his two lackeys, invented into the wall from that of the dragon, possibly send them flying into it and knock them out. Luckily enough, they're not dead, but still. Not to mention seeing Scion basically freaking out, not thinking straight, not using his magic properly, given that supposedly he's supposed to be that of one of the top ranking students in the entire year, and yet he's freaking out too crazy, not able to take on the dragon, just shooting fire spell after fire spell. With Will seeing this, as part of him can't help but think this is karma, as the guy has always done nothing but basically make his life a living hell, alongside half of the other students in this academy as well. But yet, he would be no better if he just sit by and let this happen. With that, he soon jumps in, before then setting that of a barrage of light spells towards that of the dragon. As the dragon was hit by it, he soon basically flinches before seeing that of Will. As Will, with that of with the massive blade in his right hand, Scion is shocked, saying, "Wait, the laggard? The hell are you?" Before noticing the sword, saying, "You gotta be kidding me. That sword. Why doesn't he?" Saying, "Scion, I'm going to make this clear. I don't like you, but I don't think you deserve to die." So, then, he channels a bit of his mana into that of the massive blade, before then tossing it to the ground. However, instead of it clinging on that of the, rocky surface, it just begins to hover, before soon jumping onto it, as he uses it like that of a hoverboard. With Scion shocked by this, saying, "What the hell is he?" Before then, Will, not stopping there, as he unsheaths the sword on his back, with then channeling more and more mana into that of the blade too, before soon the dragon tries to lunge for that of Will. However, Will dodging out of the way before cutting into that of the right side of the cheek of the dragon, as it roars in that of pain and blood. With Scion seeing this, saying, "That can't be the way he's fighting. It's almost like he's..." With Will not stopping there, as he basically cuts through more and more of that of the regional dragon, slicing it a piece, slicing through its scales, as normally it has that of an elemental affinity and resistance towards that of fire magic, wind magic, and lightning magic. But when it doesn't have that of an resistance to blunt force or physical attacks, before then stabbing it in that of its back while it roars in pain, seeing that of Will doing more damage to it than that of what Scion was capable of. As he finished saying, "He's a dragon witch!" Waiting on that the entrance of the top floor is that of Professor Charlotta, and that of her red dress and lightish pink-haired Glory, with that of her staff in her hands, still basically keeping watch. Before soon somebody comes down the stairs of the dungeon, as she's aware, saying, "Hello there, Edwards. What do I owe that of this, lovely visit of ours?" With then, Edward saying, "Spare me your sentiment, Charlotta. I'm aware that Scion Ulster and his two friends basically came down to the dungeon without permission, saying, 'Oh, is that so? If I recall, they did ask for permission from you, and even had that of a proper form, saying that you could enter the dungeon.' Within, growling, saying, 'You and I both know that they forged my signature. I need to go down there to make sure they don't get themselves killed. Or better yet, you could do it for me.' Saying, 'Oh, that's not necessary.' As she says this, while heading to that of her own personal desk, which had that of boiling tea, saying, 'And why is that?' 'Because two of my personal apprentices are already down there taking care of the monsters that would give them trouble. Honestly, this is more of a punishment for them for doing two things, actually.' Within, him basically raising his eyes, saying, 'What?' Saying, 'First, forging your signature and lying to me. Students like that, thinking they have the right to do what they please down here in the dungeon, need to be punished properly. And two, I'm aware that the boy tried to think that he can take care of one of the Baskervilles that wandered up into that of the 6th floor. A monster that was originally supposed to be taking care of Wartner. However, Wartner gave the permission to take care of the Baskerville by that of Will, no other than himself, actually.' Within, hearing this, Edward saying, 'Surfort? You believe Surfort can handle a Baskerville? Have you lost your mind, woman? You should have let the other one that you say is your apprentice to handle it. Who else is it?' Saying, 'Oh, that would be Karikara, but she's taking care of the other mess that should have been taken care of days ago. But yet somebody had to be lazy about it.' Within, saying, 'Huh?' Saying, 'I'm talking about the evil sentry that wandered up into the higher floors. Originally, you were supposed to take care of it, but instead you had to push it off to me to handle it. And unfortunately, I don't have time for such trivial matters while making sure that younger and also immature students don't get themselves killed. So I asked that of Karikata to take care of it, and thankfully, she's already handling it.' But then saying, 'Fine, then inform her to basically take care of the other problem and get that of Scion and his friends. Oh, actually, can't do that. They're currently being fought by that of a regional dragon.' With hearing that, saying, 'What?' And it seems like this regional dragon is in charge of the 6th floor, actually. Which makes sense given the dragon witch that ended up dying on the floor, after all. But even so, it should be taken care of easily by right now. Saying, 'By who?' Within, she's soon basically showing that of two screens, using that of a crystal ball that basically shows images from Kiki. However, she likes to make it a spectacle when showing off things that Will or any other student that she takes an interest in to other students waiting for their chance to enter the dungeon, or just likes to watch. With that of Karikara, as taking on that of an evil sentry, she knocks the blade out of his hands before then creating multiple dark spell circles around her, and then they soon become that of dark spears before bringing them down. And she screams, "Take this!" Before then, a hail and storm of dark spears rain down onto it, while still floating in the air, as it's soon consumed by that of the darkness and also begins to fade, leaving back that of its leaving only that of the, nothing but its corpse before it begins to fade, as then begin to take a piece of that of the creature by devouring it, putting in that of their own personal pocket space, saying, "This should be enough. Now then, I remember seeing that regional dragon here, so I better take care of that before it causes any trouble." As then she begins to fly off. However, getting a better look at her, she's not wearing that of the school uniform anymore, as she's also wearing that of dungeon exploring attire, being her, regular witch outfit, which shows off quite a bit of her, ample cleavage actually, being a white and black dress with purple frills around that of the dress. Flying to the distance, she soon begins to sense a presence that she knows all too well, saying, "Will, you're here, aren't you?" With then, as flying towards that of the location where Will is. Currently with Will, he's basically not even phased with that of the dragon, as it sends that of multiple, magic spells again and again, as spell circles begin to materialize around it and even around that of its mouth, before sending that of a barrage of fireballs, lightning, and wind magic spells towards him. With Will not even phased, as he dodges each and every one easily, doing flips, spins, and tricks all across them, before then basically going straight into that of the regional dragon and stabbing it right into the eye, as it soon basically screams out in pain and agony, before then, not stopping there, raising up that of his left hand, as soon it begins to molt and change and alter, becoming a dragon's head itself, as it's all black, but the scales are basically a lightish baby blue. Within, soon as it opens up its jaw and mouth, before Will saying, "Devour!" as slamming that of the jaws down onto that of the dragon's neck, as blood begins to gush and the dragon begins to roar in that of pain. But soon, Will begins to feel the strength and his stamina return back towards him. While removing the sword, while still holding onto the dragon, he soon sheathes that of his regular sword, before then saying, "You were once a dragon witch yourself. Allow me to finally put you to rest. Apologies for the pain that I had to dealt you." Before that of a whitish yellow spell circle materialize right in front of him, as he's saying, "Holy sword!" Within, seeing as coming through that of the white spell circle is that of a sword of light, stabbing right through that of the dragon's brain. Within, it soon basically gives off its last roar and whimper, before then succumbing to its wounds in death and falls down to the ground, leaving having Will to no longer basically chomping down on it, as his left hand is back to normal, but as he begins to float back down, as the dragon begins to also fade, but instead of like how monsters would fade, what's fading is basically what's left of the mana that once was this witch turned into a dragon. Before then, only Will could hear was a thank you. Thank you from that of the witch who he had to kill to set free. Before then, taking a piece of its horn for itself and also a part of its scales, devouring it and putting in his own personal subspace inventory, basically inside of his dragon core. Before taking a deep breath, saying, "That takes care of that." But then realizing, man, I was supposed to take care of the Baskerville. Hopefully I can explain this to that of Professor Wartner and maybe even Professor Charlotta as well. They would be a lot more reasonable, right? With Kiki basically shoving that of her little, furry shoulders. Before then, soon looking back at Scion saying, "Hey Scion, I know this is probably your first time seeing a more powerful dragon like that. instead of the usual monstrous dragons. And also what you saw what I did today. Personally, I could care less if you tell anybody or not. All I'm asking you is to just grab your friends and get out of here while you can. Before then, Kiki basically jumps up on Will's leg before crawling up to that of his shoulders, as Will begins to fly off, leaving Scion with his thoughts saying, "The laggard was a dragon witch, and not just any dragon witch, a male dragon witch, the first of any. How? Why? Has that damn bastard been hiding his true strength all this damn time?" Then, Scion couldn't help but feel absolutely and utterly livid. As for Karikara, she saw all this while basically seeing what Will's capable of, with her spear in her hand and basically placing it on her back, on that of her shoulders, saying, "That's my Will." Within thinking, Scion can handle taking care of his dumbass friends. I need to go back to the get out of here as well. As she soon basically flies off, back up to the first floor. With then, Charlotta back on the first floor, no longer shows the images saying, "And there you go. No need to worry. As for the dragon he took care of, I am aware on who the dragon was after all. A dragon witch student who went missing last year, and her last sighting was that she head down to the dungeon, most likely to turn into a dragon so she won't hurt anybody. So I'll make sure to inform this by that of her sister mates and by the headmistress as well. Now that your curiosity is sated, you can go now." Within, Edward's basically already storming off, saying, "Let's make this 100% clear, Charlotta. That boy is an abomination. I will not accept something like him to roam this academy any longer." With that, Edwards basically storms up out of the dungeon floor. Within, she's saying, "And what makes you think you have the right? As of this day, on this night, secrets have been revealed and power has been shown. How will people know the truth about Will's powers as a dragon witch?" And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Love to read them. So, what did you guys think? Think I did a pretty decent enough job after all? As, not to mention, I'm adding the certain party members from that of Dragon Star Varnir into that of this What If 2. Mainly that of Manissa, alongside that of Karikara, and like I said, Charlotta was already going to be added from part 0 after all. But I won't add too many of them, even though there isn't really a lot of dragon witches outside of the little sisters, which I will bring in probably in the next part. So yeah, and you're right. If you guys like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification, keep to date my videos upload to the channel. Also, please check out my Discord, my gaming channel, my other channel, my side channel, my Patreon, and my Cash App. All linked in the description below. So, with all that said, this is Mooky signing out. Later, guys, and hope you all take care. Thank you so much for watching and staying to the end of the video.
But there's still so much on my love's channel.
That's right, such as my other What If content and the most recent What Ifs as well.
Not to mention his playlist, where you can watch all of his other What Ifs.
Which, all said and done, this is Leon.
And Shiro.
And you're watching Leon Mooky.